Hi, I'm Darnell with Way of Recipes, and this is my 30-day review of the Emeril digital air fryer oven. This is a 25-liter digital air fryer oven, and overall it's a very good cooker. It does everything fairly well. It's a larger size cooker, so it can do pretty much everything, and you can, fit larger size stuff in it, so it works out pretty well. I do want to point out one thing, and I've already had a video put out about this. The cooker does bacon very well. I mean, in just like 10 minutes, thick sliced bacon. For air fryers, that's pretty good. So you get, air fried bacon in a pretty good amount of time. And, a lot of others, might take longer than that. Some might go a little faster than that, but 10 minutes is pretty good. And so that made it real nice when ever trying to cook some bacon, could just pop it in there, 10 minutes, comes out real nice. And with every cooker, things may sometimes tend to cook more in one area than another. With this one in particular, things cook faster on the outsides than they do in the middle, despite the air fryer fan being right up there on the top. If you've got like a lot of stuff, usually the center isn't going to cook as quickly as the edges, which is interesting, but overall everything cooks evenly and done. It's just you might see a slight difference between what's going on in the middle versus the edges. Now, as far as air frying, this cooker does air frying well. There will be videos coming with it doing some air fry work. So I definitely liked having it as an air fryer because being a larger size cooker with a nice large air fryer basket, you're able to fit a lot of food in. And the cooker can also bake well. So it does baking pretty quick. One thing to keep in mind with baking with this cooker, it keeps the air fry fan on during a bake, so it's kind of like a convection bake by default. And with that, you're going to have a situation where things with that fan coming down with the heat, it's going to cook things on the top kind of quick if it's a long cook. If it's something that's got to cook in there for more than like 10 minutes or so and you're baking, then you've got to be, cognizant of the, the top of your food, and think about the top of your food, that it might get browned quickly. So a good thing to do if you're going to be baking in this cooker is maybe let it bake open face for the first 10 minutes and then cover it for the rest of the cook, or maybe keep it covered from the start of the cook and just uncover it maybe that last 10 minutes. I mean, it's up to you, but you do want to keep in mind that bake with that fan running is going to push air down on your food and going to cause that top to brown a bit. Now, I will say, as far as toast with this cooker, it toasts very well. It's an excellent, awesome cooker. Does a perfect job of toasting. Everything comes out nicely done for what you set it on. Both sides are evenly done, which is real nice. There's one thing though about toast that's interesting, is that the time on toast, as I showed in my initial review, and by the way, if you haven't seen it, you should see the initial review. That's where I do all the test cooks and all that good stuff. So everything you don't see in this 30-day review where I sum things up is in that initial review, so be sure that you see that. This is my follow-up. So basically with that countdown, it's just only for toast. It's not for any other setting. It's only for toast. That it does time in like hundreds of seconds. So it starts off showing 300, like if you do a medium toast, it shows 300. And you think, well, that's 3 minutes. Well, no, that's actually 300 seconds. And it only does that, which is 5 minutes. It only does that on toast. It doesn't do that with the other settings. The other settings it does minutes and seconds. But for toast, it does hundreds of seconds. So whatever you set it for, it's like hundreds of seconds instead of minutes and seconds. And that's just something you have to keep in mind. But your end result is still very nice. But just don't get fooled as far as that, time setting on toast. Now, if you've seen my initial review, you know that this cooker has a whole lot of function settings, a whole lot. I think most of them are just really to give you a default starting point on time and temp, more so than the cooker doing anything different for the different settings. It's just my opinion. I don't, from my use of it over a month, I don't think that the different settings all do too much different from one another. But there are a lot of different settings. And hey, it does do that bacon in just 10 minutes. But I digress on that. But basically, the different settings, you still got your air fry fan usually, and it's going to, it seems like whatever setting you use, you're probably going to get about probably the same. But it has functions and temperature settings that it says are supposed to do everything from proof. It has a proof function all the way up through air fryer and everything in between. But the interesting thing is the lowest temperature this cooker can do is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, for you who actually proof dough and do your own homemade dough and breads and things, 100 degrees for proof is probably a little hot. Probably a little more than you're going to probably proof your dough at, more than likely. So, even though they have a proof setting and it starts at 100 degrees and that's the lowest this cooker can go, I would think this cooker is probably better for something like dehydration on up. I don't know if I would really, and I didn't test proof, but at 100 degrees I wouldn't want to proof my dough at 100 degrees. I'd probably want to proof mine a bit lower than that. So, it is able to do all types of different functions, but I just found that it's interesting it has that setting for proof, but it can't go lower than 100 degrees, and that's not really where a lot of us want to proof our dough at. Now I want to talk about when you use the preheat. The good thing about the cooker is that you have the option with every cook whether or not you want to use preheat. It doesn't force you into a preheat ever. Whenever you set time and temp, you can either hit start to just start a cook, or you can hit preheat and let it do a preheat before the cook starts. And you can do that with every, basically every cook setting that you're going to do where you would do a preheat. You have that option. And you don't have to do it if you don't want to. So that's kind of cool having that flexibility. But with the preheat, what we found even in the initial testing is that the preheat does not go all the way to the full temp. So, it runs for about a few minutes of preheat, and then it tells you, okay, add your food. But it's not at the desired temperature at that point in time. All the same, it's going to cook your food in the time you would expect for, if you're baking something or you're cooking something another way. The preheat time, even though it doesn't get the temp, it's still going to finish things off in the time that you would expect. So on one hand, no, it's not reaching that target temperature on preheat, but on the other hand, it is going to finish things in a time that you would expect. Now, one thing to also remember about the preheat is after you add your food in, when you open the door, it auto pauses, which is cool. And when you close the door, you would expect it to just start running after a preheat is run, but it doesn't. After you put your food in, you close the door, you have to make sure to hit the start button. That's something that I would often forget to do because most cookers are going to recognize, hey, I just finished preheating and food was put in, the door's closed, now start cooking. But you have to just remember with this cooker, after you put the food in, close the door, remember to hit start, or it's going to be sitting there in its preheat mode still, waiting for you to hit the start button, which is kind of annoying, but just a quirk to keep in mind. Now the user interface on this cooker is pretty easy to use. It's pretty intuitive. It is, I guess, could be easier like some other cookers, but all the same, I'd say it's probably a medium level of difficulty. It's not very hard. It's not the most intuitive of all, I think, but all the same, it's not too hard to figure out how to manage and use different features. It doesn't have a dedicated air fry function. You say, I just want to air fry. Well, it doesn't have a setting that just says air fry. But like I said, most every setting is using the air fry fan anyway. So usually I would just, if I'm doing air frying or anything that would be like an air fry setting, I just set it like French fries and just cook it on the French fry setting. And, it's going to do it just like an air fry. It is an air fry. So you just have to keep that in mind with all the different options, and it's got a ton of them, and all the different settings. It doesn't have one named air fry, so just use French fries. And with this cooker, it's easy to adjust the time and temp during a cook. You can just, in the middle of a cook, hit that time temp button, make some adjustments if you need to, and it will just pick up those changes on the fly so that, you know, if you got to make changes along the way, you're good to go. You're not going to have any hassles as far as making adjustments on the fly. Now, the cooking ability for this cooker varies as far as how quickly it gets things done. In some respects, like I said, it is going to get things done in a time you would expect, but some things it does faster. So it's usually going to do in a time you would expect or a little faster. So like with the bacon, for example, it'll go a little faster. Some things are going to go a little faster than others, but you just kind of feel out depending on what you're cooking. But I can't say that there's been anything that I really cooked in it where I was just like, oh wow, this is just, you know, way slower than I would expect. I didn't have that type of experience with this cooker at all. It's either going to probably meet your expectations for cooking time from an air fryer or air fryer oven if you're used to an air fryer oven, or it's going to come in a little faster. And so it's pretty cool in that regard. Now this cooker has no major smoke issues at all. I never had a problem with smoke. It's got a door that's got like a double seal on it. So, I mean, the heat stays in there real good and the smoke and all stays in there. But I never really, you know, did anything to try and create a bunch of smoke. But it wasn't like with some cookers where you're just cooking something and you're, you know, like even making some bacon or something, you're seeing smoke starting to seep out and stuff. No issues like that at all. The double seal door works really well. And so, you know, that's a real nice quality feature to have, is a nice, you know, double sealed door there with the, you know, the glass that's like extra secured. And so that's a little bit comforting there, and so it's cool. Now with the sound level on this cooker, it sounds basically like a normal air fryer would as far as its noise level. Not excessively loud, definitely not quiet, but not excessively loud either. It's average as far as an air fryer oven goes as far as its sound compared to others. But there's one interesting thing. Whenever you finish a cook, it has an automatic 2-minute cool down. It's going to do it. Unless you unplug the thing, it's going to do it. And they tell you to let it do it. I mean, it's for the life of the cooker. It's for the good of the cooker to let it do its 2-minute cool down. So after you're done with the cook, it starts doing its cool down. The interesting thing is, the cool down fan is louder than the air fryer fan. The cool down is louder than a normal cook. So it's like for a couple minutes after you're done cooking, you hear the fan running louder than it did during your cooking. I guess maybe it runs harder to cool things down. I, you know, don't know. But it runs louder than it does for a cook. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to cleaning the cooker, cleaning it is pretty easy, no real hassles. The inside doesn't hold a lot of stains. I mean, I guess I'd have to try and get some of these things out. There is something I want to point out about the bake pan when I get that out. Usually the air fry basket I would clean in like the dishwasher. I'd knock any big major excess off and clean it in the dishwasher. So I'm going to get these out. But the bake pan, you see it holds a bit of stain if you don't line it. If you don't line it well, it holds stain. It's not a very, in my opinion, not a very non-stick pan, because as you can see, got a lot that's stuck to it. I don't worry myself trying to, you know, get the stains off too much, but it's something to keep in mind. You know, line the pan if you're going to use this pan, because things can stick to it. However, on the interior, you can see there's no, you know, no stains, no issues really. And, you know, I don't really go out of my way trying to remove any, you know, stain that really gets stuck on a cooker. So nothing really sticks on the inside there. That's pretty cool. The only thing that things really stick on in cooking is this pan. And so I washed everything by hand except for the air fry basket. And I only did the air fry basket in a dishwasher because it's just easier to let the dishwasher get anything that's really into those grooves a little bit than it is worrying about it by hand or worrying about soaking it for an extended period of time to get it off. Now I'll talk about comparisons of this Emeril air fryer oven with some other cookers. If I don't mention the cooker that you're interested in, you'll just have to look at some of my previous videos with other cookers or do your own independent analysis, but I'm just trying to cover a few here, and that's it. From here, it's up to you from this point. But I'll try and just talk about a few in particular that I'm thinking about this in comparison with. And so the first cooker that I'm going to talk about is this compared to the Emeril Lagasse Power Air Fryer Oven 360 XL. I am looking at my notes to make sure that I don't miss anything I want to tell you. And I will say, just generally speaking, I like this cooker better than the Emeril Power Air Fryer 360 XL because, first of all, it can do bacon faster. Did I mention it can do bacon faster? So, yeah, it does bacon faster, so I like that. I mean, it's a larger size cooker, can hold a lot of stuff, and so, the cooker can do a lot that the Emeril can do, maybe even a little faster. No, it doesn't have a rotisserie, but, it's not such a major deal to me whether or not you got a rotisserie in your cooker. But I like this better than the Emeril overall, personally. I think it's, able to do things a little quicker. It's big. It's a sturdy build. So I like this Emeril a little better. But one thing I will point out regarding the Emeril when it comes to the fact that it's a bigger cooker, if you got stuff that's heavy, and sometime in the future there'll be a lasagna cook video coming in this cooker, and cooking lasagna in it, the lasagna was kind of heavy because there was a lot in the pan. You don't want to use this wire rack with something heavy like that. It will not hold. It'll come down off the rack. For something heavy, you definitely want to use this bake pan. Put it on the bake pan and it can hold heavier stuff real easy. And of course you are supposed to use the bigger bake pan for heavier things anyway. But I guess in most cases for something like a lasagna on a bake pan, I've been able to get away with using a wire rack for it, but not with this cooker. You want to use that bake pan. Next, I'm going to compare to the Cuisinart Chef's Convection Toaster Oven, and I'll say that between the two, I prefer the fan control on the Cuisinart Chef's Convection Toaster Oven over this cooker, but this cooker is bigger. So overall, I do prefer this cooker between the Cuisinart Chef's Convection Toaster Oven, which was a cooker I really liked, versus this one. Even though you have the fan control on that, or the superior, in my opinion, fan control on the Chef's Convection Toaster Oven, I still like this cooker better. It's just bigger and it works pretty well. Now compared to another Cuisinart cooker, the Cuisinart Digital Air Fryer Toaster Oven, this cooker has a similar look to the Cuisinart but is bigger. And the Cuisinart, since it's smaller, it has less room to have to cover with heat. It is able to cook faster. The Cuisinart is no joke when it comes to its digital air fryer oven. It's a real deal air fryer there. And so the Cuisinart also has more options for frozen food. This one has a frozen setting, but the Cuisinart has a lot more different settings and options for things that are frozen or not frozen. So I really prefer the Cuisinart since it does even faster cooking and it has more options for frozen stuff. I do prefer the Cuisinart Digital Air Fryer Oven over this cooker here. Now this Emeril Digital Air Fryer Oven versus the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Air Oven. The Ninja Foodi, if you're just looking for just an air fryer oven, I'd say if you're looking for just an air fryer oven, the Ninja Foodi is, my favorite if you're running just an air fryer oven, just personally speaking. And compared to this Emeril, I'd say that it's close competition, but I prefer the Ninja. And the Ninja, keeps things moister overall. And, this does fine in the regard of keeping things moist, but not as good. It's just not like the Ninja. I mean, I don't know, what they do when they're cooking that food in the Ninja, but it's just more moist, more juicy. And so you remember that. And so the Ninja gets a slight edge from me. And I also like that the Ninja doesn't require hitting the start button after you put the food in after a preheat. That nice intuitive automatic start is a lot cooler for me. I like that. And there's something else to consider. I usually don't bother into price about some of these cookers because you can always find different sales and such like that. But this particular cooker, you can often find it at Best Buy for less than $100. Less than $100 for a pretty decent air fryer oven. That's just something to think about. Now, the last cooker that I'm going to compare this Emeril to is my personal all-time super great favorite champ. I still use it all the time. It's great to me. Is the Cuisinart microwave air fryer. The Cuisinart microwave air fryer is still my champ. I like it better than this cooker because you can microwave. It's a real deal air fryer. It can air fry faster than this because it's just like that. I mean, it's great. I really like it. But I will say, for anybody that's interested in the Cuisinart microwave air fryer, you definitely want to see my initial and 30-day review for that cooker. I would highly recommend those before you venture out putting money down because it's my favorite. It might not be your favorite, and I really mean that. There's a lot of people that, you know, like cookers I don't like or dislike cookers I don't, you know, that I like, vice versa, you know, but it's up to you. It's your decision. I just hope that the information I've offered and provided helps you in your checking of cookers and, you know, doing your own research. I hope it helps you do your own research. I don't want to tell you what to buy. I tell you, you know, what I'd like, and from this point, from here on, it's up to you. You know, it's on you. So basically, with all that said, you can find in the video description ways to help this channel if you choose. And also, if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Share the video with a friend, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notification icon, and good eating.